So much more to talk about with all of you. Now, a little earlier this evening, I had a chat with the Prime Minister in his office in the House of Commons. Now, I have to say, this was before the furore over the way he uses the words like surrender and humbug to describe those who oppose him and want to delay Brexit. I began, however, by asking whether literally anything is actually going right for him.
60 days ago, nobody said that we could change the withdrawal agreement in the EU treaty, the current.
Well, you haven't changed it.
Nobody said. Everybody now, on the contrary, everybody around the EU now accepts that it must be changed.
Well, it may be changed. It hasn't happened.
Nobody said that we could change the backstop.
But again, it hasn't been done.
That is now under serious
discussion. But when I talk to people in European capitals, they are very sceptical you'll get anything like what you want.
Well, it is certainly true, Robert, that the British negotiating position has been undermined by the so-called surrender bill. Not so-called, it is a surrender bill. The bill that says that we'd have to rule out no deal. They've tried to wreck our negotiating position, but we're not going to let them do it.
But
we're going to get on and negotiate a deal if we possibly can. And if we can't get a deal, then we're going to come out of the EU on October the 31st, come what may. That's what
I get all that, but you did say something I thought was very interesting to MPs, which is that you believe now that the EU are agreeing to some mechanism, you've got it the principle of consent,
right,
whereby whatever arrangements, if any arrangements to replace the backstop are agreed, there will be a way for Northern Ireland to get out of those arrangements. How would that work?
Well, I mean, this is kind of where the rubber is hitting the road. Okay, the problem with the backstop is it's the arrangement. It's the arrangement, right? Exactly. It's the arrangement that keeps the UK locked in the EU's legal order, the customs union, and the single market, with the EU having the say about our ability to exit. That's the problem with it, and it's just never going to go through the House of Commons. So we need to get rid of that.
But you get any sense? So you said it. You're saying to MPs that you think the EU will move on that. Genuinely?
Yes, I do, and they already genuinely have moved in the sense that what they're willing to consider are other ways that allow us to work with our Irish friends to accomplish several things. Number one, we need to avoid any kind of border checks in Northern Ireland. Number two, we need to respect the peace process in Northern Ireland, which is incredibly important. Number three, we need to respect the unity of the EU single market. And we think we can also do that. But we also have to ensure that the whole of the UK withdraws from the EU. And we can do that too. And the way to do it is to make sure that you do much more on what you know about the maximum facilitations, all the checks away from the border that you can do. Look at the proposal the UK has made about the sanitary and phytosanitary unity of the island of Ireland, the famous quote attributed to Ian Paisley the Elder, perhaps wrongly, that the people of Northern Ireland may be British, but the cattle are Irish, right? Within that idea, there is the kernel of a solution. And then you have the
third... It is only the kernel of a solution, isn't it? And as I said, when I talk to people in Brussels, in Dublin, in Paris and Berlin, they say they're nowhere near seeing anything from you they can agree to.
Well, let's see how we get on. Actually, a great deal of progress has been made, and a huge amount of people keep saying, well, there's no paper that's been shown, there's no documents. Actually, a huge amount of work is being done. I won't hide it from you, Robert. The timetable is very tight.
It certainly is.
And it is not,
36 days.
It is not, I'm going to be absolutely clear with you, it is not made easier for the UK negotiating side to have, Parliament passing stuff that tries to take no deal off the table, and the court saying
we haven't
this.
I've got to ask you about that. I mean, the Attorney General said today that you would abide by the so-called Ben Act, which says if you can't get a deal, you've got a right to the EU requesting an extension. So you're going to write this letter, are you?
Well, we're going to go for a deal, and we're going to get a deal.
No. He said you would abide by this law. So that means you have to write the letter if there's no deal.
Of course, only kicks in if we fail to get a deal.
You're conceding there's a reasonable prospect they're not going to get a deal.
And under those circumstances, what I can say to you is that we will respect the law, and we will come out on October the 31st.
But those two statements, many would say, are completely incompatible.
Well, we will respect the law, and we will come out on October the 31st. Well, obviously, we've got some tough negotiations ahead, and if you'll forgive me, I don't want to tip the hand of the UK government more than Parliament has already required us to do so.
The only reason I had the pleasure of seeing you here today is because you had to come back.
No, I was coming back anyway.
You're many hours earlier than you would have expected
I fulfilled all my commitments in New York.
I would never have expected anything less of you.
Including a speech at 4 in the morning.
But that's not my point. The point is we had this dramatic ruling yesterday
Yes.
from the Supreme Court, which you have described as a court interfering in political questions. Now,
Yes.
some of your colleagues say that if this is the politicisation of the Supreme Court, we've got to think as a nation about how that court operates. Now, they think that there should be, for example, as happens in America, political confirmation hearings for members of the Supreme Court. Is that something you want to think about?
I think that's kind of jumping a long way down the track.
You're not ruling it out, though, are you?
Well, look, let's be clear about what has happened. This is yes, the Supreme Court is quite a novel institution. It's also let's be clear, a novel and groundbreaking judgment that they have come to. Clearly, I respect it. I think it's wrong for the reasons that I've given. I think that the court has erred in the sense that it has pronounced on the political question of what Parliament should be debating at a certain time in a very difficult time.
No, it hasn't. It simply said that sovereignty lies with MPs, which surely you would agree with that.
Actually, if you look at what the President of the Court said, she was very clear that the issue that she thought Parliament should be debating was Brexit.
No, she explicitly said that's not what was on her mind. She said her decision had nothing to do with Brexit.
Well,
she was explicit about that, Prime Minister.
I don't wish to impugn her motives at all, but what she said in her findings was that it was appropriate for Parliament at this stage to be debating Brexit.
Well, actually, what she explicitly said, I'm going to have to disagree with you, because what she absolutely said was this was not about Brexit, it was about the appropriate length of time
well,
for
I'm
Parliament...
going to respectfully have to contradict you, because that was what she said. So, for my money, that is a very interesting development.
Right.
And
what flows from that in your mind?
I think that people will want to consider the political implications and the constitutional implications, because I think what most lawyers would agree is that actually, this wasn't an outcome they expected. And certainly it wasn't an outcome that anybody that advised us expected. And it's new, it's a new thing. It seems to be having a bearing on a very sensitive political question. And so, yeah, people will ask all sorts of questions. But for the moment, what we need to do is take account of the ruling, put it into practice. Here we are. Parliament is back. That's fine. That's fine.
Will you prorogue it before the Queen's speech?
I would like to have a Queen's speech. We will have to absorb the full implications of the ruling. But I think what the country wants, I think, is for us to get on with a strong domestic agenda.
The Supreme Court, we have got an enormous amount of time. The Supreme Court said that you gave unlawful advice to the Queen. Some of your colleagues have said that should be a resigning issue for you. You're not going to resign.
No.
What would it take to get you to resign? What would you have to do wrong?
Well, we've got to get on and deliver Brexit on October the 31st. That's the biggest function of this government. But we also have a dynamic, conservative, one nation conservative agenda to take the country forward. That's what I want to do. And clearly, it's frustrating that in the course of trying to get a deal on Brexit, we're being undermined, I'm afraid, by people in Parliament who, let's be blunt, don't want Brexit to happen.
You've said that multiple times, but
I don't think I said it at all in this interview. It's worth repeating. No,
you have
they don't want Brexit.
But believe it or not, you have. Now, you say you also want a general election. You plainly can't govern without a majority. Nicola Sturgeon and Jeremy Corbyn have said you can have your general election.
Come on.
If you'll just delay Brexit beyond the 31st of October. So why not give them what they want and have a general election? And then fight your general election on the basis of the kind of Brexit or no Brexit that is plainly the contentious issue.
They can have a general election any time they like. They turned it down
but
twice.
Why not delay Brexit a few days and have your general election?
Well, because we are coming out of the EU on October the 31st.
What they want to do, or the 5th of November, why does it matter?
What they want to do is to frustrate Brexit. And they are, I'm afraid, running away from a general election. Jeremy Corbyn wanted to have a general election. There was a passage in his conference speech, I'm told, in which he agreed that it would be a good idea to have a general election. It was cut out by the Stasi in the form of John McDonnell, who said that, because I think they're worried about two possibilities. The first is, of course, the likelihood that he would lose. And then there's the terrifying but remote possibility that he might win. And they don't want to go into an election, as far as I can see, with Jeremy Corbyn. That's why they're running away from it.
Now, a couple of very quick questions. Lots of your colleagues aren't exactly admirers of your senior advisor, Dominic Cummings. Does Dominic Cummings still have your full confidence?
I take the decisions, and I've got a lot of...
Does he still have your full confidence?
Of course, and I've got a lot of very good advisors, but advisors obviously give advice, and I take the
So
decision.
what advice has he given to you that you've ever turned down, Prime Minister? You take responsibility, but what advice has he ever
I
given to you that
certainly
you've
wouldn't
turned
dream
down?
of discussing the advice that he gives me, because that would be totally wrong.
And then finally, it is literally the final question. The London Assembly has asked for details on, you know, whether or not you helped that particular entrepreneur, Jennifer Arcuri, in an unfair way. Are you going to give them the information?
I'm very happy to help my old friends in the London Assembly, but all I can say is they'd be better off spending more money on police officers, which we give them, and less on press officers, in my view. That'd be my strong advice to the current Mayor of London.
Prime Minister, very good to see you.
Thank you.